Hello everyone, this is FIDE Viktor Neustruev, and thank you for joining our webinar, Defense in Worst Positions. Okay, let me adjust my settings a little. Now it should be good. You can see the board. Please let me know whether the sound and video quality is good. It should be. Okay, Johnny joins us today. Perfect. Okay, so today we are going to start, I'm going to tell you how to defend your position when it works. Well, of course, everyone, even if the position is worst, wants to play for a win, which is a bit specific task. However, yes, there can be a chance to play for a win. Of course, your opponent should make a mistake. And yeah, okay. But before we start with our topic, let's talk about our homework. So, for example, last time I provided you with a homework. I was talking about these two positions. Okay, okay. Okay, so no, not about this position, but I was talking about this, and I asked you whether it does make sense to capture only two or not. It was Emmanuel Lasker playing with black pieces, and he decided to take, even despite that the queen is trapped. Why? According to his playing style, he took this decision based on his playing style. He thought that the position is so complicated, approximately equal, and it's really hard to play for a win. That's why he decided to make the position imbalanced, which will surprise white and probably provoke white to make a mistake. So he took this decision based on his playing style. Queen a2. Such a move was played. The queen is trapped, but the queen is trapped for a rook, bishop, and the pawn, which usually compensates the queen, because well, if we say that the queen costs 9 pawns, then rook, bishop, and 1 pawn are also 9, even a little more. But in my opinion, the queen is actually more valuable, and I would say I would prefer playing this position for white. However, the engine thinks white is just a very, very little better. Okay, so rook fd8. Well, white has some very small advantage, but how to play for a win is not obvious. That's why here Emmanuel Lasker thought that white will be trying to play for a win, and because of that, he will try to take some. He would take some risk. And maybe this is where Lasker thought that he could have some practical chances. Okay, can you play bishop c3 before? You mean, okay, in this position. But the queen escapes then. So the queen may escape, maybe here, maybe to a6. Rook a1, queen b6. So bishop a5 doesn't work. Maybe you can win the pawn back, but trapping the queen was so attractive. That's why white decided to initiate it. So c4. Now it's equal. Black tries to improve his pieces. White activates his pawns to try to obtain some advantage. And typically, while white has a queen on the board, he should try to attack the king and try to get the king exposed. a6, king h1, just a prophylaxis, and knight c7. Maybe not the best move, but he wanted to regroup his pieces. Now they are too crowded. Well, I would say white is still better. White plays queen e3. Probably doesn't understand what he should be doing. Rook b8, preparing d5. Knight d1 and knight b4. Queen goes there, a5, rook a1, attacking here, b6. And what would you play in this position as white? As white, knight c2. Okay, knight c2 seems to be a logical move. However, I think that you have to calculate what happens in case of d5, or maybe d5 is not a problem. Let's see, you play knight c2, and if I continue with d5, you cannot take it, doesn't favor you. So, but you can try this move, and then I can capture with my c knight in order to make this counter attack. No, this counter attack. It makes a lot of sense, a lot of difference, because if you do this move, then after this, this rook is hanging in case of rook c2. So you have to capture with your knight, and then you are pinned. So knight retreats, exchange, and maybe d6 here, or maybe bishop e4 with some attacking ideas. Okay, anyway, so yeah, knight c2 is a possible move, but too risky. Again, the task is to expose the king, so that's why something like g4 seems to be very logical. With g5 ideas, maybe with f5 ideas. But the white player, Ilyin Zhenevsky, here plays queen e3, and this is a mistake. So actually, by having the position imbalanced, Lasker forced white to play the position that white doesn't understand fully. And because of that, white made mistakes. So here, for example, queen e3 is a serious mistake. This move blunders e5, after which black initiates a fork and gets material advantage. Now, if you look at the position, it's two rooks already, two rooks and one pawn to compensate the queen. Well, black pieces are definitely better. Only this bishop is good. The bishop and the queen, the knight is not really doing much. Maybe they can improve it anyway. Bishop f6, creating another threat. Okay, so queen g1, well, kind of another inaccuracy which allows of black to open the position because they need open files for the rooks. Take, take here, and then finally he plays g4, which now doesn't make any sense at all. f6, preventing g5, supporting the bishop. h4, b5, and well, simply black is winning here. They can play a4, but instead they decided to choose a tactical strike to simplify the position. Queen takes, rook takes, and these two rooks and the bishop are definitely stronger than queen and the light squared bishop, especially with such a weak king. Also, there is a possibility of creating a passed pawn. h5 trying to open the position, but a3, and after queen e2, rook bda, they just simply resigned. Why? Well, let's say they do this move, then a2, and that's it. So take, king takes. How a1 is coming. So queen c3, rook d1, queen c1, for example, still rook d1, and then a1, and this is a winning position. So you can choose which plan to play, also based on your playing style and the playing style of your opponent. If you think that your opponent will be uncomfortable and at the same time unconfident of which move to play in the positions with imbalanced material, then you may initiate approximately equal exchange, like queen for rook, bishop, and the pawn. The second game. In the second game, the tournament situation affected decisions that white took. That was from one of the matches between Kasparov and Karpov. Kasparov had to win this game obligatory. A draw meant that Karpov wins the match. So that's why here, well, typically when you want to win the game, then you are trying to choose more complicated strategies. more complicated openings. Well, that was the exact case. Here, Kasparov wanted to keep Karpov in the distance so that black could make a mistake and suddenly lose the game. Um, well, I'm not sure if I explained in the distance properly, but there shouldn't be direct confrontation right away. It should be once Kasparov already obtains advantage. If he doesn't, then he'd better provoke black to make a mistake. This is exactly what happened in the game. So it was a very slow game. They, like, you see English opening, well, or you may say righty opening actually. Kasparov avoids exchanges. However, some pieces are exchanged anyway. Bishop takes d4, c5 undermining the center, but rook fd1, and white pieces are better. So after this exchange, white has some advantage, but it's very small. I would say even tiny. However, black has to take complex decisions. Because any exchange of the pawn structure may provide white with winning chances. Also, they have a bishop, and the endgame means, well, in the endgame, the bishop will be better than the knight. So queen e7, rook ac1, rook fd8, nothing specific. D takes c5, knight takes. But before to undermine the queen side and make this a weakness, take. So the bishop in the open position is definitely more valuable. It covers these squares as well as a8, preventing any counterplay on the a pawn. However, black tries to attack this pawn with a queen as well as defending here, but a3. Knight f5, rook b1, adding pressure. Well, the idea is to do this, this, and take. Rook d1, queen c7. Knight d3, trying to exchange this knight because this one then becomes useless. H6, rook c1, creating a pin, but it's not so dangerous. This is always protected, so black doesn't care about it. Queen b5, trying to invade the enemy camp through the light squares, because if there is a way to invade the enemy camp, it's mainly through the light squares because the bishop exists. So knight c6, for example, means knight c5. Knight goes back. Black is simply playing for a draw. Knight d6, queen b1, queen a7. Knight goes to e5 to enter these squares. But at the same time, with this move, white sacrifices the pawn. So if, let's say, queen e4, it's queen b6, attacking this and taking advantage of the pin. Instead, black took with a knight. That was a mistake. Rook c8, and in this position, I ask you how white should play. What do you think? Do you have any suggestions? Okay, so Bianca suggests queen b5. Queen d1 is also suggested, okay. Okay, so thanks, John, for the explanation. Yes, I understand it. Queen b5 and queen d1, knight c6 and king g2 looks good. Well, I don't see the point of knight c6, so what do you achieve? King g2, yes, but you are down a pawn, so some immediate actions are required. So Kasparov played queen d1, and that was a mistake. We are going to talk about this move later, but the winning move was queen b5, because with this move, it's possible to win material. So, how to play? Threatening, well, this is a threat. How to defend? The queen cannot, because there is a knight hanging then. That's why knight goes to d6. Queen c6, attacking this knight anyway, because the key idea is to invade the enemy camp on e8. Now the knight has to move. Now either queen c8 or queen e8. So for example, here queen c8 seems to be a better move. And then knight c6, where the queen goes. Looks like the queen is absolutely trapped. And the only way they can play is this. But then at least you can take there and take here. Or maybe you just take there. I think it's more simple because after queen e7, you have queen c2 and you win the knight anyway, keeping the queens on the board, and the pawn is not dangerous at all. So if, let's say, they don't move to f5, but where? So knight b7, well, knight b7, queen e8, queen e8, king h7, bishop e4. No, we don't need to talk about it. It's just a checkmate in one. So that was the key move. Maybe there is anything else that should be covered, like king f8, let's say. Still knight c6. How does it work? It works through queen b4. So for example, now what? Where? 2e8. But if it goes to e8, there is a discovered attack. Let me just find which one exactly. Maybe you don't need to initiate it right away, but play this move. Why? Because queen d8 is a checkmate. If they decide to move their knight, well, if let's say this move, it's simply capture, because after queen takes bishop, queen d8 is a checkmate. If knight goes to other side, then it can be a check, and after king g8, knight e7, winning the queen. So a very tough position based on the enemy queen, which can be trapped once our queen goes to c8. I think Kasparov could potentially find this tactical idea, but he missed it and played queen d1, like putting pressure on a4 and threatening with queen d8. Knight c5 was enough to save the game. Queen d8, king h7, then what? If this move, then actually the e5 knight is hanging too, and it's likely to be a draw. If instead you play prophylaxis first, it's f6, queen c8, f takes e5, and again black can definitely hold the position. Luckily, Karpov didn't notice it, and this is where he made a mistake. He played knight e7 and lost the game. So queen d8, it's actually fine. The engine thinks it's an accuracy because there was a better move, bishop h5, but it's still a winning move. King h7, knight f7. So it's not a checkmate, but it's a very significant attack which creates a lot of weaknesses in the enemy camp, and because of that the king is vulnerable. Knight g6, covering h8, queen e8, queen e7, queen e4, queen f7, and then Kasparov won because of his bishop domination over the knight. Okay, so the answer was not queen d1 but queen b5. Let's now continue with our topic today. So first of all, well, yeah, just to remind you, we are talking about how to defend in worst position. So once you believe that your opponent has advantage, your task is to find your defensive strategy. Of course, you should understand that your defense approaches depend on the benefits or depends on the advantages that your opponent has. For example, if your opponent has material advantage, you may exchange his dangerous pawns or pieces. Let's say you are a pawn down, then you can, for example, exchange pieces and pass the game to the rook endgame without a pawn, where you can potentially save the position. Or instead, you can initiate a counter attack, trying to weaken the king. If your opponent has initiative, then you have to play accurate moves in order to defend your position. So for example, you should move your king to safe squares. You should bring your pieces to defend the king at the same time. Make sure that your pieces are protected well. And if you choose, between several candidate moves, you choose the one which is unlikely to lead to complications where you can potentially make a mistake. As well as you have to cover the squares that your opponent may invade to. As for the pawn march that your opponent initiates in the center or on the side, you can blockade it with your pieces, especially with a knight, or even sacrifice some material in order to build a fortress. This is what we're gonna cover today too. And of course, a counterplay. Every time when you see that your opponent has advantage, you are trying to neutralize his benefits and his advantage, and take advantage of your benefits of the position, at the same time working on the drawbacks of your position. Let's say, well, what about this position? Let's start from this example. So definitely white has advantage. They have a bishop pair. Potentially they can invade your camp with bishop a1, queen b2, and so on. There is a pin that you cannot get rid of. This is another problem. So if you play queen d6, you still cannot get rid of this pin. And they have these ideas, let's say. What's your opinion? What kind of defense, what kind of a defending, what kind of defending approach should we initiate here with black pieces? So what to be looking for? So even if you don't know several moves, just try to list your ideas here. What do you think you should play? To either neutralize the enemy threats or create your own chances. Just any suggestions are welcome. Okay, so the pin is annoying. Maybe queen g8 and queen d8. Okay. Well, queen e7 doesn't work because you simply lose on d5. I actually think that they're gonna take on d5 with this rook. So you take, and there are two bishops for a rook. It's definitely winning position. So queen e7 definitely not. Queen g8, queen d8. Okay, so queen g8, queen d8 seems like the most logical continuation. But let's say, what about, let's say, this? So if you take with a bishop, it's queen c3, c5 is hanging. I'm also about to invade the enemy camp, and I also want to play b6 and then b7 because there is a pin. So for example, you can try queen d8 this time. No, you cannot play queen d8 because it's simply a loss. So actually, no, queen g8 doesn't work. Well, maybe you can take here with a rook and it changes something. Let's see. So this, well, if bishop takes, it's the same, queen c3. So let's say queen takes, and still queen c3 works. So here, black simply takes advantage of having the bishops of the opposite color. So the black's king is in danger too. Okay, so there is a nice suggestion from John Wogan. Need to open lines on the king side for attack. That's right. So this is your only chance. Because doing something like a6 fails. Just b takes a6. And once you take, you lose here. Open the enemy king, trying to invade the enemy territory with your pieces. And I would also add that activating this bishop, which now is blocked by the pawn. And because of that, why? Well, so just one more thing. So we are absolutely tied down to the d5. We are losing because white has a proper plan. This, or maybe a6, b6. Or even a6, bishop a8, and then bishop a1, queen b2, invading there with a check. So we cannot get rid of this pin. Queen d8 or queen g8 is queen d6 or queen g8 is very slow. the only chance for us is to create a counterplay. Maybe it doesn't work, but at least it is a chance. And here, after f4, you have to calculate certain moves. So what moves? Well, e takes f4, g takes f4, and maybe bishop d5. Maybe a6 too. Actually, a6 would be the best move anyway. So f takes g3, f takes g3, bishop e8, and they can defend the position with queen c2. Now the king is relatively safe while we are still under a pin and still struggle. So something like that, which seems like a natural move here, definitely fails because of bishop e6. The rook is hanging. So if rook takes d1, then what? Oh, actually, maybe it does make sense. Okay, no, knight e3 fails because of the other reason. Because of this reason. So this move. Now after knight c2, it's bishop e6. And if it's something like that, it's bishop c1. Bishop c1 creates a pin. So if it's queen c4, let's say, then obviously queen takes c4, knight takes c4, check, and e3, but rook a7. Okay, yeah, rook a7. Yeah, rook a7 works. So he goes there, this, and then we are trying to promote as well as to take here. It's a winning position. So yeah, a6 would work, but they took on f4. If they take with the g pawn, then you are winning. Why? After king f1, you have knight e3 with a discovered attack. So you get rid of the pins with a tempo. If they play king h1, then knight f4 works, because this time you still threaten two threats, to take on d1 and to checkmate on g2. That's why if to take, then with the e pawn. So now how to continue? What's the second move? Okay, yes, it's e3 to open the bishop. For example, if f takes e3, g3 is a weakness, the queen is blocked, and because of that, queen h3 works. Now what? If, well, they can try e4 or they can play bishop d5. If they play bishop d5, it is a disaster, because if the king moves here or there, doesn't matter. We just take on d5 with which piece, doesn't matter. And then deliver a check. So even if the king on h1, it's still a losing position for white because we win on d5. Actually, with a rook threatening to checkmate them. So letting black capture on g3 is a blunder. That's why that's why e4. But e4 allows us to play knight e3, and we again interfere the third rank, threatening to take on g3. And queen e3 this time fails because the rook is simply not protected enough. White also has some counterplay. It's bishop g7. How does it work? If king takes, it's rook d7, queen takes, and queen takes a3. White is still winning. The material, the number of pieces is equal. White is 2 pawns up, but black doesn't have any attack anymore. So that's why after such a check, well, if you take it with a rook, they simply take on e3, and they are still fine. But if you play this move, the problem still exists. You threaten with a check, mate on g2, check on d1, and probably they need to play bishop g8 to provoke us to take, and now exchange. But then this bishop is hanging. After queen takes a3, king g8, and we are winning. A bishop versus 3 pawns. Well, if they take here, we can take there. Or maybe do several checks instead. That's why after e3, they decided to take. e2 with a temper. Rook e1 is a must. Now queen takes d5, exchanging. Well, what do you think? Which piece to take? Bishop or rook? Yeah, obviously a rook. If you take with the bishop, they can capture on e2. And then, so bishop c4, for example, doesn't work because you have a problem here. So it's not a checkmate, but after rook c8, it's a weakness. And with two extra pawns, most likely black loses the game. Okay, let's go back. But if you take with a rook, then rook e2 is not possible at all. This, checkmate. So they have to play f3 to prepare for rook d1 and bring the king to stop the pawn. But after bishop f3, the material becomes equal, and because of the bishops of opposite color, the game becomes drawing. So with this operation, with f4 and then e3, black was able to save the game. So here, based on the analysis of the position, black realized that their only chances to save this worse position is not passive defense, not getting rid of a pin, but creating a counter attack by liberating the bishop's position as well as weakening g3 and bringing the queen to the king's side. How to realize it? Well, it's hard, and you should pay attention to the disadvantages of the position of your opponent and some tactical motives. Okay, by the way, before we continue with the next game, which is a very nice game actually too, let me share something. You probably see that instead of a green color, a green screen behind me, there are these pictures again. So Bobby Fischer, Gary Kasparov, then young Bobby Fischer with Mikhail Tal. Why? I removed the green screen because I finished my course recording. And on Friday, this course was finally published on Chessable. So now it's here, train your tactical vision. Well, this is the best course I ever created. I spent a lot of time annotating all that stuff, and actually there are 40 hours of videos. So can you imagine how much time and how many efforts it took for me to create such a course? This is where I teach you to not just how to solve puzzles. I teach you how to understand tactics and how to be able to uh, notice it. So, for example, these consist of many chapters, but there are main ones. So first is for beginners mainly, where I explain what forcing moves are and when you should initiate them. The second one is important, tactical signals, where I illustrate a certain position and teach you how to notice what you should be doing there, like it was in this example of the game between Max Euwe and Paul Keres. So how to notice that only a counterattack works, nothing else work, and the king is in a danger once we open these two pieces. So based on it, you can come up with a tactical idea. So tactical signals is a chapter which is devoted to such positions where you see certain moves and then you realize that tactical motives exist in the position. So some indicators, I would say. I also teach a lot of mating patterns here because a lot of tactics is based on checkmating ideas. And the heart of the course is tactical motives. So for example, well, actually double attack is a simple one. Let's choose something like intermediate move. Right. So every chapter consists of 8 examples where I not only explain the idea of this, but also how to find. For those of you who are quite experienced chess players, you might be interested in this chapter, creating tactics, how to create tactics when the position is calm, how to prepare it, which moves do you have to play. So this is covered in this course too. So everyone with rating from 1000 to 2000 should watch these videos and do the puzzles. There is also homework, by the way. So you should do it yourself. There is no video explanation, but there is a text explanation instead. So let me send you the link to the course. So, well, if I viewer, let's say if I viewer like 1800 or even below, I would love to get this course because this is what I needed when I was much younger. I had to come up to all these ideas myself because of experience, and I wish that someone explained it to me earlier. Okay, so this is the link to the course. If you want to uh, purchase it, this is my highly recommendation. This is definitely the best course I ever created. Uh, any questions? You're welcome. It's on sale now, so of course I recommend a video version because everything is well explained. However, there is also a lot of text annotation in the PGNs, in the examples uploaded there. So let's continue with the next topic. With the next game, I mean, based on the same topic. So we are the next game is the game between Akiba Rubinstein. Well, it was George Thomas playing against Akiba Rubinstein. And look at this position. Tell me what you think. I'm sure you definitely reply that white is better. Not much, but white is definitely better. However, can you please explain because of what white is better? What are the white's advantages here? Okay, so for chessable courses, I unfortunately do not have any codes, and if you like the course, you have to purchase it when it is on sale. So right now it is on sale. Maybe it will be on sale in December. So for the chess world, there is a coupon code of Victor60, but it's only for the chessworld.com. For chessable, no, I don't have any codes. Okay, so in this position, white has space advantage. Well, it's not the main advantage of white. Black is limited in its movements, true, especially the bishop on e7, true. Okay, John's Legrand says the control of the A file, and I think actually this is the main advantage. Okay, let's sum it up. So, well, yeah, the pieces are crowded, lack of space. The A file control for white definitely provides them with advantage. And there is something else that you didn't say. Some space advantage on the king side, which may result in a king side attack for white. And based on it, black decided to defend their position. What do you think? In which way black should defend? Okay, can you suggest a defensive strategy for black based on the advantages that white has? Okay, so thanks. This is a very nice idea. So to neutralize the control of the A file, you can play queen b7 and rook a8. That's true. Let's say queen b7, king h2 is a prophylaxis. You play rook a2, they play queen f1. If you take, they take, and they still control the A file. How to continue then? Thanks. Exactly. It's rook a6 threatening to double. Not before, not c4. It's too early for these actions, but rook a6 with queen a7 or queen a8 is better because queen a7 can be a bit problematic here. So knight d2, queen e8. And now black controls the a file. You see? And you remember I mentioned about the kingside attack of white. This time, it's not so easy for white to initiate the kingside attack because every time white does it, they have to calculate the queen's invasion. Because if black is faster on the queen side, the kingside attack is very slow then. So, knight b3. Now, the second stage of the game. What should black do? So another disadvantage that we mentioned of the black's position was were their pieces. The inactivity, or I would say even passivity of the black pieces, especially the dark squared bishop. So there are several ways to play. For example, you can say c4, knight moves back, and then you activate the bishop and maybe try to exchange it. Looks good. Black played knight g5, activating the knight, because they also wanted to play for a win. Then the idea is to invade f3, to play h5, so king g2, for example, h5 with a pawn, and if g takes, it's bishop h3. So that's why, well, f3 is possible, but then after h4, this knight is a bit passive. For example, it goes to e2, this knight goes back, and after g5, black simply closes the king side. So that neutralizes the white side advantage, a possibility of the king side attack in future at some moment. And black can totally switch to the queen side, where they have advantage, where they have the open file. Maybe if white plays properly, they don't win the game, but at least they are playing for a win. Okay, h4, okay, h5, h4, knight f7, g takes h5 because they cannot support the pawn on g4. Then, well, taking with a knight simplifies and opens the g file that black wanted to avoid, so they took with a pawn. King h2. Queen c8. So the a file this time is not as important as the activity on the king side. The queen may support the bishop and they together may join the king side. So if you imagine the queen on g4, it seems that the h4 pawn is lost and their attack becomes winning. So like bishop e8, queen g4, let's say. Queen g2, threatening with knight h5. So let's move the king away. Knight d2, f5. So what's the purpose of this move? Who can tell me? Why do we play f5? Do we really want to activate this bishop? Or what are we trying to do with f5 here? We try to activate our dark squared bishop. That's right. So you see, so first of all, white had the A file and our pieces were bad. We fight it for the A file and got the control over it. And then we are trying to neutralizing our second main disadvantage, the passivity of our pieces, especially the bishop. There was a better way of doing it like that. It was much faster, but f5 works too. It takes f5 and bishop h4. Well, with this operation, black keeps the position more complicated and gets more winning chances. So because f5 is hanging at the very next move, they decide to sacrifice it because they cannot hold it. Queen here, bishop takes, and then bishop f5. f6. Bishop takes f6. And maybe this time white made a mistake. They should play bishop g6, trying to get this pawn. Why? Because if, let's say, h4, this knight goes there, and they have some domination, so bishop e7 is a must. c4, blocking pieces and trying to get the other bishop, the other knight to the game. So b4, and maybe bishop g5 even. Trying to focus on the king side. e4 is a very nice position for the knight, and d6 is under the attack, and one knight can replace the other knight in case of a mass exchange on g5. But they played queen f3. Bishop h4 anyway, to liquidate it. Well, knight h5 this time doesn't work because of this fork. So bishop g6, threatening checkmate. Check. And bishop f5. Simply exchanging pieces and passing the game to the endgame with extra pawn. So bishop f7, king takes f7. The bishop is pinned, so knight e4, threatening with a fork. Looks like a natural move, but is a critical mistake already. Instead of doing this move, they'd better play something else. So what do you think? Now, black is better in this position. Black has extra pawn, and the white's task is to neutralize this kind of advantage. Knight e4 looks logical, but it's a wrong move anyway. So what do you think? Which strategy they should initiate instead of doing knight e4? It looks very spectacular because knight e4 threatens a royal fork, but at the same time there was a much better way which could keep the material balance. It's bishop h6, threatening to take here and take on h5, or c4 first, and after b4, bishop h6. But knight e4 was played. Queen d7 defending. So this fails because knight takes. Bishop h6. But this time it doesn't work so well. So if the knight moves away, it's queen h5. King g6. So bishop takes g7, and if queen takes g7, you lose on d6. Of course, black doesn't want such a continuation, so they take with the king, and queen h5 is not possible because the knight is hanging. b4, c4. What do you think is the most decisive factor which offers winning chances for black here? I will say it's not a pass pawn on e5 because the pawn is blocked, and well, yeah, in some situations you can win because of this pass pawn, and yes, definitely it is important factor. But together with this factor, there is something else. Because I think if you just exchange like that, you may not win because your king is exposed and is vulnerable for a perpetual check. No, it's actually the weakness of the d5 pawn. And if we exchange the queens, they can hardly defend it. So knight d2, queen f7, threatening with this and this. So they played queen e3, but queen takes d5. Okay, let's say let's take a look, and maybe there was a better move. Maybe they could try this. Then actually bishop d3 works. How does it work? f1 is hanging, so a queen exchange is a must, and then knight e3. Bishop e4, king h3, king g6. King h4, bishop f3. So it's a kind of a zugzwang. They have to go back. King g5, they have to go here. What is the winning strategy? Who can tell me? The knight is tied down to the pawn on d5. So h4, yeah, h4. So if he takes, you go there and then win this pawn and this pawn actually too. If king h3 in this position, let's just make a waiting move. Or what? Oh, let's just take. Bishop a4, they have to move and still let us to go there. Even if they move king f2, we still can go there. An exchange of minor pieces means a completely losing endgame because without a pawn, pawn endgame is usually losing. So the weakness of the d5 is a decisive factor, even if they can replace their knight and defend it. Queen e3, queen takes d5. Check here, but it doesn't allow white to draw the game. So they continued with several checks, but finally the king moved to there. The one pawn was sacrificed, but then it was over. Queen f2, king h3, king h6, and this pawn is poisoned because of the knight being hanging. Also, there is bishop f5 threat. So let's say this king moves checkmate. So knight b1 was played, but again, it's a completely losing position. Now we can capture it. There is no perpetual check because the queen retreats. Queen d2, king f6, queen d6, king g7. Then that's it. So which check they can initiate? Maybe this, you go there. This, there. And even if the queen is on d2, then we can play queen g5 and get rid of checks. Fine. So this is how the game ended. So in this position, it seems that black is worse. And first analyzing and trying to realize what are the white's advantages and what are the disadvantages of the black's position. Based on it, black decided to choose a defensive approach. So neutralizing the white activity on the A file and activating the pieces and preventing a kingside attack of white. The next example, black to move. So Tigran Petrosyan was playing against Samuel Reshevsky. What white wants to do here? Actually, well, it's materially equal position, right? But looks like white pieces are better coordinated. They have two bishops. However, this bishop on b2 is not a good one, actually. The bishop on g4 is good. But the key idea is that white has two pawns, e5 and d4, and these pawns challenge the black's position. So what white can do? Try to advance the pawns. How? Maybe with bishop f3 first. And then d5. If the rook moves away, let's say, it's e6 right now. So taking is a disaster, obviously. f6, yes, it looks better. But then let's say a4, undermining b4, and just d5. So because rook d5 is a problem. So the rook has no squares. Maybe rook d3, then queen c4 even. And after this move, it's e8 equals queen mate. So, and typically bishop f3 and then d5 works really well for white. This is their plan. So how to defend the position for black? Who can tell me? So once again, black is afraid of white moving the e and the d pawns forward. Okay, so, well, let's wait for other suggestions too. Well, rook e6 is a move that deserves attention. We should discuss it. Any other suggestions? B4, okay. So B4, let's talk about B4. B4, let's say bishop F3. How then you play? Maybe take bishop C3. No, then D5 is coming and the bishop becomes better. So taking doesn't look good. Okay, so actually rook e6 exchanging, sacrificing the exchange was the best move. How does it work? Well, if they take with a bishop, we can take with both queen or pawn. But the key idea of such a move is to replace the knight to d5. So blockading pawns with pieces is the best strategy, and it neutralizes any activity of white pieces and allows us to fight for a draw. So they play d4 and immediately this. Pawn takes, fine. Yes, the pawn is a weakness, but it's so but the knight on d5 becomes so strong. It's a fork. So because of that, and now d5 is actually stopped. So queen moves away to not fall under a fork. But knight d5, look at how these pieces are located. They almost have an ideal setup. Rook goes to f3. If there is any chances, if there are any chances for white to play for a win, they are definitely connected with their activity to play on the f file. So that's why bishop d3. And if, let's say, queen f2, then you continue with b4, and actually the position becomes better for you because of these two passed pawns. You neutralize the enemy pawns and create your own winning chance with b takes c3 or with this exchange and then pushing the pawn to c3. So that's why they had to capture on d3 and they just continue with extra pawn. This. In the game, it was c takes b4, but probably many of you here may say that, well, what's the point? Let's play c4 and chase this knight away because this is a really super knight. Well, yes, but a4 is now a weakness. So knight b6, d5, e takes, then if c takes, it's rook takes, for example, like that. Queen b3, king h8, turn pin. Yeah, king h8 to on pin. So a4 is hanging, and I don't think that white is winning here at all. If c5, then you go back to c4, and now the number of pawns is equal, and your knight is well placed. a4 is hanging. So let's say bishop d4, you can take here, but instead just blockade with your queen, and white has no ideas of how to invade your camp, of how to play for a win. The knight is better than a bishop. So c takes b4, a takes b4, a5, trying to create a passed pawn. But rook a8. The d4 pawn is blocked and extra pawn doesn't count for white. Rook a1. Queen c6, activating the queen. The bishop moves, queen c7, attacking the pawn. Pawn moves further, but queen b6. So this move was provoked to let the queen to occupy the best position from which it can attack a6 and put pressure on d4. Bishop d2, b3, queen c4, just an escape square. They also create an escape square, b2, rook b1. What's your opinion? Can black play for a win? Maybe they should capture on a6? If black captures on a6, what happens? How white continues? Okay, so I'm looking for both chats here in Zoom and on YouTube as well. Rook takes b2, distracts the queen, but then rook a1. Yeah, actually, good point. Rook b2 by the first glance distracts the queen because you cannot play this move. Queen e8, queen d2, queen a6, and queen d5. White is winning. But you can play rook a1 in this position and only then capture on b2. Oh, well, bishop c1, actually, I meant. Queen c8, king h7. No, queen e6 fails. There is a pin. So after rook a6, it's possible to play queen c8 check. The king moves. If he moves to f7, it's rook f1 with a strong attack, and black is unlikely to survive. But if king h7, it's simply queen c2. g6, queen takes b2. So rook a6 fails. That's why white instead chooses king h8. And after bishop a1, players agreed to a draw. Why? Simply because they cannot do anything with this knight. And because of this knight, the extra pawn doesn't count. For example, if rook a6, it's still queen c8 and this strategy. That's why both players have to just stay and wait. None of them can progress. So what did black do? Blocked the pawns. By this exchange sacrifice, they were able to bring the knight to d5, and that neutralized the main activity of white pieces, the main advantage of white, even at the cost of some material losses. And then they won the material back, but sacrificed the pawn. However, having the knight on d5 provided black with a compensation for that pawn. So you see, every time when you are trying to play for a draw, if you think that your position is worse, you are choosing a certain defensive approach based on the analysis of the position and by taking a look at what your opponent's advantages and disadvantages are as well as yours. So here you block the pawns, advancing which white could win. In the previous example, you got the control of the A file and stopped a kingside attack. Here, the position was absolutely lost originally, and in order to not lose the game, you were trying to weaken the enemy king to get some counter-attacking options. This is where the game that we are going to play. But first, let's discuss what happened. So d4, knight f6, c4. Well, it was Catalan. This is a very common position. Queen e4. Well, c takes d4, knight takes d4. This is hanging. But typically people play queen takes d4, bishop c6. And if you take on c6, you lose material. There is no compensation then. So you have to play bishop d7. And rook d1. What typically happens here? Typically, black captures on c6. Both queens are hanging, so white sacrifices their queen for the bishop. Pawn takes, and then rook d4. The c4 pawn is lost, and the c6 pawn is a weakness, which provides white with a long-term, but small but long-term advantage. However, this time Ulf Anderson, who was playing with black pieces, decided to sacrifice the queen. Why? Well, because he thought that in this, well, it's actually rook, bishop, and the pawn versus queen. So it should be enough compensation. And he thought that he can stop any white's activity in case if he builds a fortress. As you can see, the results here, the game ended in a draw. So this is the position we are going to play today. I'll be defending the position with black pieces to illustrate how to build a fortress, and your task will be to play for a win by creating some potential problems. So let me first send you the position. You may think of which moves you have to play here, what your next steps can be. So everyone who wants to play against me, please type your username in the chat. And then we're gonna play the game. So by the way, before we play the games, let me remind you something. If you want to support my webinars and my work, so you can use this link and donate using PayPal. So yes, it's chess.com username. You can use this link to donate. The link is here. So it's simple. You click on the button, a new window appears. This is where you enter the amount you want to donate. It can be any amount. Then you click PayPal. It redirects you to enter your PayPal account. You enter your login details, then click login. So here, because I'm living in Argentina, it's in Spanish. And then the money will be automatically transferred to my account, to my PayPal account. This helps me to prepare the content better, as well as to pay for my assistant. So because well, there is one girl who helps me, and she creates announcements, and the other FIDE master who works with me, he sends me the game examples from which I have to choose. And so I provide him with the topic of the webinar. He sends me, let's say, 10 or more games. I choose which one I would like to present, and that saves my time a lot. So if you want to support my work, you can donate through PayPal, or of course, you can purchase my course on Chessable or even on my own website, tricks of chess.com. So you can purchase any of my courses on my website. It will help me too. So here, for example, you click all courses and you can find it. Oh, the link is also here. And the PayPal donation button too. Oops. Okay, now let's play. Who gonna play? The link. Okay, John, which email did you use? Did you write your message to tricksofchess@gmail.com? So this is the email you should use. Okay, so custom position order, here 15 plus 10, here so I'm playing with black here. So John, okay, so play. Okay. Okay, so if you have any problems with that email, but I'm going to check whether I still have some space here. The second option, the second email is school@chesslance.com. You can also message me there. Okay, Johnny, I think that the first move is obvious, right? So you can play it. I just took your rook on d1. I decided to start a little earlier, so so that you have to play just one move win 40 seconds. Okay, so the next challenge. Oh, let's play one more move. Knight c3. So I play with black. Okay, the challenge is sent. Okay, so bishop c6. Bishop g5. Yeah, I was thinking about this move, but I wanted to play this. I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, but I'm targeting f2, but then it's knight e4 is not possible, so knight g5 is fine. Bishop f4. Okay, let me do bishop c5 again. Okay, so who else wanted to play? h3. So I can try with knight e4, then e3, and f3 is weak. Actually, let's try. I think I sent the link on chess.com. Does it work? So, and then I would like to play rook d8 to activate my rook. Okay, what happens in my other game? It's John thinking. Anybody else? Okay, queen c2, but I want to play this. Rook d1. My c4 pawn is hanging or not? No, it's not. So g5, bishop e5, f6, bishop c3. How good is it for me? e5 maybe instead. Okay, another game. Okay, so bishop c6 is my next move. Okay, e5, bishop e5, and then I can play knight g5. Yeah, it seems like a good idea. But then it's knight e5 to target f3. Okay, if anybody else wants to play, just let me know. Looks like not. Yeah, okay, fine. And then I wanted to play this move, knight g5. Am I blundering? Seems not. So if queen c4, I think I will start with rook d1 and then checkmate on h1 here. Knight e3 also threatens the bishop. And if f4, probably I have to take on e3 first. And how to continue then? Maybe bishop e4. Okay, let's see. Let's see how it goes and then decide. Okay, what about other games? Oops, here the game ended in a draw. What's wrong? Well, I think you can use the same link again. Or I can challenge you here. Okay, bishop f4. Well, then knight f3 may work. No, how does it work actually? Okay, probably I did something wrong. Okay, bishop here. So bishop f4. Queen has to move, not to c1, obviously. There is also queen a4 move. Okay, knight f3, the king goes there. But it seems that, well, maybe this move. Oh, well, bishop f3 doesn't work. Okay, knight f3. e4. Yeah, this is correct. Knight g4 doesn't work. So let's castle just. What else I can do? Yeah, let's just castle. King goes there. So how to continue? Well, bishop f4, queen e4 with a check. Oh, it's a blunder. C4 is hanging. No, not really. Okay, let's just castle. Okay, your game stopped because you didn't play within 40 seconds as it was required. Okay, let me do it once again. Oops. So use this link. Queen e2. So if this move, it's this. Knight d3, bishop e3. So I want to play f5 actually, but then it's bishop e3. I have knight d3 also. Okay, so this is my next move. Okay, knight c3. Yeah, let's play here. For knight c3, I think I had rook d2 or something like that. Yeah, rook d2 works well. It seems so. So here, knight d3, knight f3 also. f5 maybe, but f5 this move. And I don't want to move the bishop away. Maybe f5, bishop e3, bishop takes, bishop, queen takes, and knight g4. No, doesn't look good. Okay, let's play f5. Queen goes here. Let's double the rooks. Oh, game aborted. Oh, this time I think it's my fault. Sorry. So one more time. So I'm not threatening with anything at the moment. Maybe g5 is a threat. Okay, so finally, bishop c6. b5. Now the game won't be aborted. Queen c2. Okay, probably with the ideas of playing b3. Let's play rook c8. So f5 here. a4. Okay. a6. Take. This. Rook c7. Yes, it's logical. No, this is not a threat. That's why I have time to castle. Oh, bishop a5. This is what I didn't realize. Actually, it's a nice idea. No, I don't think it's a nice idea. So let's just play b6. Okay, bishop a3. Finally, yes, that's right. This is a right move. Should I exchange? Maybe not. Maybe I can just try bishop b4, and if the knight goes, bishop goes there, I can play this move. What else? just take and well, queen takes. Takes e4, knight takes e4. Yeah, maybe I should take. Okay, this move. But I think this move is completely fine for me. So which options do I have? Well, I can take here or there. Well, if I take there, then bishop takes, knight takes. I think it's fine. Anything else? No. Okay, let's do it. c4, fine. C takes, queen takes works. Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't actually. It doesn't. C takes, knight takes, bishop b7. Looks good. C takes, queen takes is also fine. Okay, let's do it. So knight d2. Queen takes e3. Well, let's take. So I have three minor pieces versus queen. It's slightly better than it was. Okay, so is there a winning strategy? Okay, I don't know. Let's just push the pawn. Okay, what happens in my other games? So my opponents are thinking. So if knight takes, oh, queen takes. So how to play? Okay, maybe bishop d5 looks good. This bishop is also the object of the attack. What else? Bishop b7, rook a1. No, this doesn't look good. Okay, let's add pressure. b4, fine. So if I take, it's queen c5, and there is a checkmate. So I cannot take. So let's just move the bishop. Well, where to move the bishop? Can I take with my bishop, actually? Yeah, it seems I can. Yes, I can. Knight takes e4. Right, right, right. What then? Knight g4, queen goes there. No. Knight f3. King. Yeah, let's deliver this check first and activate my pieces. So then I have to play a5. Supporting it. Queen b1, it's obvious. So defending here. So what about this move? Okay, so I don't know how to play. Let me just activate the rook. But then I have c3. No, Johnny, it doesn't work. So bishop f4 this time. King f1 was a mistake. So now it's a fork. Okay, queen c2, but I just take on c2. I don't know whether it was a mouse sleep or not, but it was hard. Maybe queen e2 was the only way to play. Okay, thank you for the game and please attend my webinar. So you are from Romania. Okay, I've never been there. So here I'm just trying to activate pieces. Well, this strategy is completely different to what actually Ulf Anderson did in his game. Well, in this game, Kasparov played quite well, but looks like you guys didn't point out the main idea which allowed Kasparov to take advantage of it. So here I activated pieces. My position looks good. So let's see. I also have a pass pawn, so I may play this. And this is definitely a mistake. Take, then I win a bishop. And I'm going to play this move soon. Okay. Logically, yes, this move is quite logical. Okay, let's play b3. I don't know how to continue b3. b4, I mean, and then b3. Okay, this move. This move allows me to do what? Take, maybe. So bishop f4, queen b3, covering d1. But then I have bishop c2. But it doesn't fully work as I wish. Okay, this move. Yeah, this move seems to be okay. At least I can capture on e2. Okay, so here it's over. Thank you, John, for the game. The last one left, and then I will show you what exactly what exactly was played in that game between Gary Kasparov and Ulf Anderson. So Kasparov was playing well, but his activity was successfully parried with black accurate play. And there was a certain strategy that I also want you to learn. Also, for those who is going to leave the meeting soon, let me send you the homework. Of course, there will be an email tomorrow also regarding this webinar, and the homework will be attached, but it's here too. Okay, so, well, is this a threat? No, unlikely. Check and then bishop e2, or first bishop e2. I think first bishop e2. Bishop b6 is a possibility, but bishop b6, rook a4. How does it favor me? Actually, it may favor me. No, let's just play something simple. Bishop e2. So king g2, obviously. And then which moves I have? I can play something like that, which pins. I can also play rook d1, threatening with this. Okay, yeah, it's a nice idea. I think I want to play rook d1 because rook d1 contains the threat of bishop f1 too. Oh, knight d2. Okay. So yeah, I wish I could play this move first. Okay, fine. Anyway, I think it's a winning position. Take on d2 or what? Bishop b6, let's say rook a4. Bishop d3 maybe instead. Okay, so I don't see a better move. Let it be bishop d3. And after queen b2, for example, it can be bishop d4 even. But I think this will be the move. But after this move, it's bishop c2 works. So this move is better because then if I play this, it's bishop b2. Let's see if it works actually, because bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, and then I play this move. But queen b4 and the knight is defended. Okay, so no, it doesn't look like a good idea. So how can I play instead? Okay, maybe knight e4 is a good move because I've exchanged these knights, opened the position. or bishop e2. No, let's do knight e4. At least I'm taking here. Ah, and I'm covering e8 also, so it looks good. So, and for this, I prepared bishop f3, trying to win the queen with rook d1 move. So if bishop here, then I play rook d1, winning the queen. So this rook is out of the place of action, and it doesn't help even to do a back rank threat. I can also bring this bishop back to defend if needed. So king h2, still rook d1. I don't think it works. Bishop d4 maybe then. That's the plan. I think it's still losing. I just take on d4. Yeah, I just take on d4 because it's a checkmate. And this is defended. Okay, thank you for the games. What you should do instead? Let's go back. Let's go back to this example. Instead, you should be attacking. So knight d2 was a good move, b5, and then a4, undermining. So a6 fails, then the bishop has to stay there. Bishop e7, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, and white simply wins the pawn back. So this. Of course, black doesn't want to give up such a good light square bishop, so they simply castled. But b3. And with every exchange and with every next move that black plays, black creates a fortress. So this, pin, bishop a3. Well, that was actually a mistake. Bishop a3 was a better move. Instead, white should keep more pieces on the board and try to attack the king side, because then they can fully reveal the advantage of having the queen on the board. Instead, it was bishop a3. Bishop takes bishop, rook takes, an escape square, queen c3, and a critical moment, black exchanges their good bishop for the knight. Why? Well, because they see a fortress, rook c7. Their position contains no weaknesses. a7 can be a weakness, but they are happy to exchange it for the weakness of the c4 pawn. Queen d4, rook a c8. So if rook a7, it's simply this. Rook a4, rook d7, still pressure. Now threatening with a fork. So if queen a3, for example, it's rook c4. That's why rook a7, no, rook takes c4. This, knight goes back. This, threatening with a checkmate, but rook f8 is enough to defend. f3, well, they restrict our knight and want to play for themselves. Just rook d4 and the rook goes back. King f2, what now? With fewer pieces on the board, it's definitely a fortress. So they just offer an exchange, and if white doesn't accept this exchange, the position will be repeated. So exchange happened, and the key moment of the game. Ulf Anderson played d5, and players agreed to a draw. Why? It's just a pure fortress. So, for example, king a3, rook e8, and the next move are these. f4 can be never played because of the weakness of the e4. Maybe you can say f4 should be played earlier. No. If this, it's knight e4 and the pawn is lost. If, let's say, e5 first, then you have several options. You can take there and then play knight e4, knight g5, let's say like that. So check, then knight g5, and it's a fortress again. So let's say king moves, knight g5, h4, knight e6, king e5. And let's say my next moves are these. How do you open the position to win the game? No way to do it. Mm, or even after e5, it's possible to do this and capture there. So that's why this is a draw. King e3, rook e8, and rook e6, rook e8 back. And if let's say h4, this, well, first of all, I can play g5 because you have no chances to attack this pawn. You can only attack it with your queen being somewhere on h6. But my king is on g7. And if you try to attack it through this diagonal, then these moves are enough to defend. Or maybe instead I play knight h7, knight f6 back. So no chances. But even if I don't do this and play rook e8 like I originally wanted, it's still a draw because this time my knight goes there and I can still hold the position. If g6 first, f takes g6, and still my knight goes there and the rook is on the e file, and again it is a pure draw, no chances for white to progress. So here, by sacrificing the queen, Ulf Anderson wanted to build a fortress, which he successfully did by doing several exchanges and by forcing both players to play on one side of the board, like that. Okay, so we are done for today. Remember that your task and your defensive approach depends on the advantages and disadvantages of your and your opponent's positions. First, analyze and then decide which strategy you choose. If you think that there is no strategy to defend, try to look for a counterplay that may potentially provoke your opponent to make a mistake. Fine. So we are done for today. Again, if you want to support me, you can send a donation by PayPal or purchase one of my courses, especially the one that was just recently released on Chessable. Hope to see everyone next Sunday. I'm not sure about the topic of the webinar, but it's definitely something helpful and something that will help you to become a better chess player. That's all for today. If there are no questions, let's finish. Okay, fine. See you then, guys.